From the complete Grimm's fairy tales. This is the story of the youth who went forth to learn what fear was. A certain father had two sons, the elder of whom was smart and sensible and could do everything. But the younger was stupid and could neither learn nor understand anything. When people saw him, they said, "There's a fellow who will give that father some trouble." When anything had to be done, it was always the elder who was forced to do it. But if the father bade him to fetch anything when it was late or at the night time, or led the way through the churchyard or some other dismal place, he answered, "Oh, no, father, I'll not go there, for it makes me shudder." For he was afraid. Or when stories were told by the fire at night, which made the flesh creep, the listener sometimes said, "Oh, that makes me shudder." The younger sat in the corner and listened with the rest of them and could not imagine what they could mean. They were always saying, "It makes me shudder, it makes me shudder." "It does not make me shudder," thought he. "That must be an art of which I have understand nothing." Now it came to pass that his father said to him one day, "Hearken to me, you fellow in the corner over there. You're growing tall and strong, and you must learn to do something by which you can earn your bread. Look how your brother works, and what you do not even do to earn your salt." "Well, father," he replied, "I am quite willing to learn something. Indeed, if it could be managed, I should like to learn how to shudder. I don't understand that yet at all." The elder brother smiled when he heard that and thought to himself, "Good God, what a blockhead that brother of mine is. He will never be good for anything as long as he lives. Who wants to who wants to be a sickle must bend himself at sometimes." The father sighed and answered him, "You shall soon learn what it is to shudder, but you will not earn your bread by that way." Soon after this, the sexton came to the house on a visit, and the father bewailed his trouble and told him how his younger son was so backward in every respect that he knew nothing and learnt nothing. "Just think, when I asked him how he was going to earn his bread, he actually wanted to learn to shudder. If that, uh, if that If that be all," replied the sexton, "he can learn with me. Send him to me, and I will soon polish him." The father was glad to do it, for he thought, "It will train the boy a little." The sexton therefore took him from the house and had him ring the church bell. After a day or two, the sexton awoke at midnight and bade him to arise and go to the church tower and ring the bell. "You shall soon learn what shuddering is," thought he, and secretly went there before him. And when the boy was at the top of the tower and turned round, he was going to take hold of the bell rope when he saw a white figure standing on the stairs opposite the sounding hole. "Who's there?" cried he. But the figure made no reply, and did not move or stir. "Give an answer," cried the boy, "or take yourself off, for you have no business here at night." The sexton, however, remained standing motionless, that the boy might think he was a ghost. The boy cried a second time, "What do you want here? Speak if you are an honest fellow, or I will throw you down the steps." The sexton thought, "He can't be as bad as his words," uttered no sound, and stood there as if he were made of stone. Then the boy called to him a third time, and that was also to no purpose. So he ran at him and pushed the ghost down the stairs, so that it fell 10 steps and remained lying in the corner. Thereupon he rang the bell, went home, and without saying a word went to bed to fall asleep. The sexton's wife waited a long time for her husband, but he did not come back. At length she became uneasy, wakened the boy, and said, "Do you know where my husband is? He climbed the tower before you did." "No, I do not know," replied the boy, "but someone was standing by the sounding hole on the other side of the steps, and he could neither give an answer nor go away. I just took him for a scoundrel and threw him down the stairs. Just go there, and you will see if that was he. I should be sorry if it were." The woman ran away and found her husband, who was lying moaning in the corner, and had broken his leg. She carried him down, and then with loud screams she hastened to the boy's father. "Your boy," cried she, "has been the cause of a great misfortune. He has thrown my husband down the steps, so that he broke his leg. Take that good-for-nothing fellow out of our house." The father was terrified, and ran thither and scolded the boy. "What wicked tricks are these?" said he. "The devil must have put them into your head." "Father," he replied, "listen to me. I am quite innocent. He was standing there by night, like someone intent on doing evil. I did not know who it was, and I entreated him 3 times, and he neither spoke nor went away. Ah, father, I have nothing but unhappiness with you. Go out of my sight, and I will see you no more." "Yes, father, right willingly. Wait only until it is the day. Then I will go forth and learn to shudder, and then I shall at any rate understand what the art is to support that. Learn what you will, spoke the father. It is all the same to me. Here are 50 thalers for you. Take these and go into the world and tell no one from whence you came and who your father is, for I have reason to be ashamed of you. Yes, father, it shall be as you will. If you desire nothing more than that, then I can easily keep it in my mind. When the day dawned, therefore, the boy took his 50 thalers into his pocket and went forth onto the great highway and continually said to himself, if I could but shudder, if I could but shudder. Then the man approached who heard the conversation which the youth was holding with himself, and when he walked a little farther, they went to go see the gallows. The man said to him, look, there is the tree where 7 men have married the rope maker's daughter, and they are now learning to fly. Sit down beneath it and wait until night comes, and you will see to learn how to shudder. If that is all that is wanted, said the youth, it is easily done. But if I learn how to shudder uh, as fast as you shall have my 50 thalers, just come back to me in the morning. Then the youth went to the gallows and sat beneath it, and waited until evening came. As it was cold, he lighted himself a fire, but at midnight the wind blew so sharply in spite of his fire that he could not get warm. And as the wind knocked the hanged men against each other, they moved backwards and forwards, and he thought to himself, if you shiver below the fire, how those up there must freeze and suffer. And he felt pity for them, and he raised the ladder and climbed up and unbound one of them after the other and brought down all 7. When he stoked the fire and blew it and set all around to warm themselves. But they sat there and did not stir, and the fire caught their clothes. So he said, take care, or I hang you up again. The dead men, however, did not hear, and were quite silent, and let their rags go on burning. At this he grew quite angry, and said, if you will not take care, I cannot help you. I will not be burnt with you. And he hung them up again, each in his turn. Then he sat down by the fire and fell asleep. And the next morning the men came to him and wanted to have the 50 thalers, and said, well, do you know how to shudder? No, answered he. How should I know? Those fellows up there did not open their mouths, and were so stupid that they let their few rags go on fire and get their bodies burnt. Then the man saw that they could not get the 50 thalers that day, and went away, saying, such a youth has never come my way before. The youth likewise went his way, and once more he began to mutter to himself, ah, if only I could shudder, if only I could shudder. A wagoner who was striding behind him heard this and asked, who are you? I don't know, answered the youth. Then the wagoner asked, where do you come from? I know not. Who is your father? That I may not tell you. What is it you are always muttering beneath your teeth? Ah, replied the youth, I do so wish I could shudder, but no one can teach me how. Enough of this foolish chatter, said the wagoner. Come and go with me, and I will see about a place for you. The youth went with the wagoner, and in the evening they arrived at an inn where they wished to pass the night. Then at the entrance of the parlour, the youth again said quite loudly, if only I could shudder, if only I could but shudder. The host, who heard this, laughed and said, if it is that you desire, there ought to be a good opportunity for you here. Ah, be silent, said the hostess. So many prying persons have already lost their lives. It would be a pity and shame if such beautiful eyes as these should never see the daylight again. But the youth said, however difficult it may be, I will learn it. For this purpose, indeed, I have journeyed forth. He let the host have no rest until the latter told him that not far from thence stood a haunted castle, where anyone could easily learn how to shudder, if the, but if he would watch but for in it for 3 nights. The king had promised that he who would venture should have his daughter for his wife, and she was the most beautiful maiden the sun shone on. Likewise, the castle lay with great treasures, and which was guarded by evil spirits, and those treasures would be then freed, and would make a poor man rich enough. Already many men had gone into the castle, but as yet none had come out again. Then the youth went the next morning to the king and said, if it shall be allowed, I will willingly watch 3 nights in the haunted castle. The king looked at him, and at the youth pleased him well. He said, you must take 3 things into the castle with you, but they must be things without life. Then he answered, then I will ask for fire, a turning lathe, a cutting board with a knife. The king had these things carried into the castle for him during castle during the day. When the night was drawing near, the youth went up and made himself a bright fire in one of the rooms and placed the cutting board and the knife beside it. Excuse me. Seated beside himself by the turning lathe, he said to himself, "Ah, but if I could shudder! But I shall not learn it here either." Toward midnight, he was about to poke at his fire as he was blowing it, and something cried suddenly from one corner, "Ah, how cold it is!" "You fools!" cried he. "What are you crying about? If you are cold, come and take a seat by the fire and warm yourselves." And when he said that, two great black cats came, one with a tremendous leap, and one sat down on either side of him, and they looked savagely at him through their fiery eyes. After a short time, when they were warmed themselves, they said, "Comrade, shall we have a game of cards?" "Why not?" he replied, "but just show me your paws." Then they stretched out their claws. "Oh, what long nails you have! Wait, I must first cut them for you." Thereupon he seized them by the throats and put them on the cutting board and screwed their feet fast. "I have looked at your fingers," he said, "and my fancy for card playing has gone." And he struck them dead and threw them out into the water. But when he had made away with these two and was about to sit down again by the fire, from every corner, every hole came black cats and black dogs with red hot chains, and more of them came until they could no longer move, and they yelled horribly and got on his fire and pulled it to pieces and tried to put it out. He watched them for a while quietly, but at last, when they were going too far, he seized his cutting knife and cried, "Away with you, vermin!" And he began to cut them down. Some of them ran away, and others were killed and thrown out into the fish pond. When he came back, he fanned the embers of the fire again and warmed himself. And as he thus sat, his eyes would keep no longer, and he felt the desire to sleep. But then he looked around and saw a great bed in the corner. "That is the very thing for me," he said, and he got into it. When he was just going to shut his eyes, however, the bed began to move on its own accord, and he went over the whole castle. "That's right, but go a bit faster." Then the bed rolled on as 6 horses were harnessed to it, up and down, over the thresholds of the stairs, and suddenly hop, 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 it turned upside down and lay on him like a great mountain. He threw the quilts and pillows up in the air and got out and said, "Now anyone who likes may drive." And he lay down by the fire and slept until it was day. In the morning the king came, and he saw him lying on the ground, and he thought the evil spirits had killed him, and he was dead. Then he said, "After all, it's a pity, for he was such a handsome man." The youth heard it, got up, and said, "It has not come to that yet." Then the king was astonished, but very glad, and asked him how he had fared. "Very well indeed," answered he. "One night is past, and the 2 others will pass likewise." Then he went to the innkeeper and opened his eyes very wide, and said, "I never expected to see you alive again. Have you learned how to shudder?" "No, it is all in vain. If someone would but tell me." The second night he went again into the old castle and sat down by the fire, and once again he began his old song, "If I could but shudder." When midnight came and an uproar and noise of tumbling was heard, at first it was low and it grew louder and louder. Then it was quiet for a while, and at length there was a loud scream. Half a man came down the chimney and fell before him. "Hullo!" cried he, "another half belongs to this. This is not enough." Then the uproar began again. There was roaring and howling, and other half fell down likewise. "Wait," said he, "I will just stoke up the fire a little for you." And when he had done that and looked round again, the two pieces were joined together, and a hideous man was sitting in his place. That is no part of our bargain," said the youth. "The bench is mine." The man wanted to push him away, and the youth, however, would not allow that, but thrust him off with all of his strength and seated himself again in his own place. Then still more men fell down, one after the other. They brought 9 dead men's legs and 2 skulls, and set them up and played ninepins with them. The youth also wanted to play, and said, "Listen, can I join you?" "Yes, if you have any money." "Money enough," replied he, "but your balls are not quite round." And he took the skulls and put them in the lathe, and turned them till they were round. "There, now they will roll better. Hurrah! Now we'll have fun." And he played with them, and lost some of his money, but when it struck 12, everything vanished from his sight. He lay down and quietly fell asleep. The next morning the king came to inquire after him. "How has it fared this time?" "I've been playing at ninepins," he answered, "and have lost a couple of farthings." "Have you not shuddered then?" "What? No, I have had a wonderful time. But if I did not know what it was to shudder." The third night he sat down on his bench and said quite sadly, "If I could but shudder." When it grew late, 6 tall men came in and brought a coffin. Then he said, "Ah, that is certainly my little cousin who died only a few days ago." And he beckoned with his finger and cried, "Come, come, little cousin." Then he placed the coffin on the ground, and when he went to look into it, took the lid off, and a dead man lay therein. He felt his face, but it was cold as ice. "Wait, I will warm you a little," and went to the fire and warmed his hands and laid it on the dead man's face, but he remained cold. Then he took him out and sat down on the fire and laid him on his breast and rubbed his arms so that the blood might circulate again. As he also did no good, he thought to himself, "When two people lie in the bed together, they warm each other." Then he carried him to the bed and covered him over and lay down by him. After a short time, the dead man became warm too and began to move. Then he said to the youth, "See, little cousin, I have not warmed you." The dead man, however, got up and cried, Now I will strangle you." "What? Is that the way you want to thank me? You shall at once go into your coffin again." And he took him and threw him into and shut the lid. Then came the 6 men and carried him away again. "I cannot manage to shudder," he said. "I will never learn as long as I live." Then entered a man who was taller than the others and looked terrible. He was old, however, and with a long white beard. "You wretch," cried he, "you shall learn what it is to shudder, for you shall die." "Not so fast," replied the youth. If I am to die, I shall have to have a say in it." "I will soon seize you," said the fiend. "Softly, softly, do not talk so big. I am as strong as you are, and perhaps even stronger." "We shall see," said the old man. "If you are stronger, I will let you go. Come, we will try." Then he led him by dark passages to a smith's forge and took an axe, and with one blow struck an anvil into the ground. "I can do better than that," said the youth, and went to the other anvil. The old man placed himself near and wanted to look on, and his white beard hung down. Then the youth seized the axe and split the anvil with one blow, and in it caught the old man's beard. "Now I have you," said the youth. "Now it is your turn to die." Then he seized an iron bar and beat the old man till he moaned and entreated him to stop, when unless he would give him great riches. The youth drew out an axe and let him go. The old man led him back to the castle, and in the cellar showed him 3 chests full of gold. "Of these, one part is for the poor, the other for the king, and the third is yours." In the meantime it struck 12, and the spirit disappeared, so that the youth stood in darkness. "I shall be able to find my way out," said he, and he felt about and no way found no way into the room, and slept there from the neck by his fire. The next morning the king said, "Now you must have learned what shuddering is." "No," answered he. "What can it be? My dead cousin was here, and a bearded man came and showed me a great deal of money down below, but no one has told me what it is to shudder." "Then," said the king's daughter, "you have saved the castle, and you shall marry my daughter." "That is all very well," said he, "but still I do not know what it is to shudder." Then the gold was brought up, and the wedding celebrated, and but however so much the young king loved his wife, and however happy he was, he still always said, "If I could but shudder, if I could but shudder." And this at last angered her. Her waiting maid said, "I will find a cure for him, and he shall soon learn what it is to shudder." And she went out to the stream which flowed through the garden, and had a whole bucket full of gudgeons brought to her. At night, when the young king was sleeping, the wife was to draw the clothes off of him and empty a bucket full of cold water with the gudgeons in it over him, so that little fishes would sprawl about him. Then he woke up and cried, "Oh, what makes me shudder so? What makes me shudder so? Oh, dear wife, ah, now I know what it is to shudder."